Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. I'm Samin Siddiqui and like always, welcome to my YouTube channel ZimiSays. Yes, today I've got one special personality here with me. He's the former cricketer of New Zealand and now is one of the reowned commentator in World Cricket, the one and only Danny Morrison. Danny, what's up?
Inshallah. Zami, how are you, son? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. How's things are going in the Caribbean now?
Yeah. Well, we had to get a long way to go from down under in Australia and New Zealand to go up through Doha, through New York, stay the night at the airport, down from New York to go through St. Lucia, to then get these charter flights to Barbados and pick up other crew guys, players and coaches, and then from Barbados to get here to Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain. And we're here in the Hilton. This is the Hilton Hotel.
Okay.
And yeah, we're in lockdown for a week minimum in the room.
Oh, okay. Danny, here's my first question of the interview. Please tell us your journey as a cricketer and a commentator. Tell us your journey.
Well, amazing, really. Like I saw the great Dennis Lillee and Richard Hadley, those two protagonists, playing and butting heads in 1977 when I was 11, and I thought that's pretty amazing. And then my first test match I went to live, I still please you, Zami, and those in Pakistan, was my first test match I went to live in 1979 was when Pakistan were touring New Zealand. So I saw Imran Khan and Javed and all those guys playing on that tour. And then who would have thought 10 years later, in 1989, they would be back and I'd be playing against them. So it was quite freaky, that whole transition of going from a schoolboy to realising a bit of talent to having the dream and trying to develop that as a player and realise all that sort of hard work and grind and determination to get into the team and play alongside Sir Richard Hadley and the Crow brothers and John Wright and all those guys was fascinating and such a wonderful time of your life when you're young. You can do that through your 20s into your early 30s. So, and then on top of that, when we were around, there were some other different commentators, and there was a guy in Australia who a lot of Pakistan faithful and fans won't know of, a guy called Billy Birmingham, who used to impersonate, you may have, and people can go to YouTube and listen to it, he used to impersonate Richie Benaud, Bill Lawry, Tony Greig, Ian Chappell, and all the other commentators. But those Fab Four at the big start of Channel 9's history, this guy Billy used to impersonate him. So for a lot of us that used to listen to that and have a laugh about it, it started to develop commentary as a real exciting thing to listen to, and it added to the pictures, no doubt about it. The Aussies were doing that well, and they had Tony Greig, who was a South African who captained England and all that stuff. And of course, subcontinent fans will know of the late great Tony Greig and what he did and achieved. So those guys were sort of pioneers, if you like, in television commentary. Benno, Laurie, Greig, Tony Greig, Ian Chappell, all those guys, and then the others came along. But those four, particularly around 1979, 78, all that time of the Kerry Packer revolution, were instrumental in developing the game of where it's gone to in terms of television media and what it's done for the players in terms of being professional and allowing television broadcasts to pay cricket boards more money. So there's a lot more money in the game. And of course, there's a lot more money in the game since T20, since the ICC World T20, when India played Pakistan in Joburg. I remember doing that tournament, working on that tournament. Someone had to win, someone had to lose, but still, I mean, it was great that I think the two old rivals, India, Pakistan, butting heads and playing in that first ever T20 final. So then, of course, the IPL was spawned more and all these other franchise leagues to allow the likes of myself to do some commentary and work on that and develop that skill of commentating and having a different style and being excited, having a lot of energy, listening to Tony Gregg and Bill Lawry and seeing them, and then everyone's different styles. So not everyone can be, a bit more animated, and some of them have different styles that are a different level of, expression, your voice. So, I've been very grateful, Zimin. I've loved what I do, and being able to watch the game at close quarters from the commentary box and then interviewing players and chatting to them has been very exciting for me.
Okay. Danny, the small number of matches you played for New Zealand, you performed brilliantly for New Zealand, but still you couldn't get that much chance at international level for the New Zealand. So, any regrets on that?
Yeah, well, look, it's funny. I think for New Zealand, if everyone in Pakistan understands, like hockey used to be big, right? Hockey was big in India and Pakistan, as another sport. But cricket really dominates, right? It's the number one sport in the subcontinent, really, of cricket, particularly India and Pakistan. But rugby, so that the close game of grabbing and tackling and belting each other is rugby union. Yeah. And so that's the number one sport. So when I look at the development for New Zealand cricket, we never really played enough cricket, and would only play 3-match series, and then later on there was a 2-match series, very frustrating. And so when I look at all of that, Zam, we just simply didn't play a lot of series. Wasn't a huge amount of cricket going around for us to play on that. So, if you played 6 test matches in a year, that was a lot for us. Crazy, isn't it? 6 or 7, 8 maybe. And then with an England tour, you play 3 there, 3 at home, and maybe if you had a tour of Australia, you might have 3 at the other end, or going to India, Pakistan, you might have a 3-match series there. And so you might play 9 or 10 and go, wow, isn't that amazing? These guys these days, Zammy, they play, 14, 15, 18 test matches easily. So some of that's played 50 test matches back when I was playing. These guys are playing 100, 120 test matches nowadays. So that's easy to do. That sort of thing, where the modern game is just so much more cricket. So when I was playing, you think the amount of cricket that the likes of the 2 Ws played, Wasim and Waqar, a lot of tours to England, if they played, and they played a bit longer than I did, but I was injured a lot too. I struggled with the body a bit. So you just look at how much cricket those guys in the subcontinent could play against each other. India, Pakistan versus Sri Lanka. Then Bangladesh came along in 2000, some of those, but, playing in England, then, Pakistan playing the Aussies there, and the West Indies. We just weren't as issued a lot of test matches when I think back in the 80s and 90s, as much as perhaps a lot of other countries were.
Okay, Danny, you are the most demanded commentators in world cricket right now. So my question for you is, what is required to be a good commentator in international cricket?
I think first and foremost, you've got to like doing that sort of line of media, if you like, because there's so many guys that like to write. And the other wonderful medium that doesn't get enough recognition is radio. And radio is very good because I worked in a bit of radio locally in Auckland and New Zealand for Radio Sport. And that was hosting shows and chat shows. Now, as you know, some people don't mind chatting about the game. They quite like talking about it, even like this, looking down the barrel of the camera, having a microphone, chatting down, looking down it, can be quite daunting for some ex-players that don't really feel comfortable about it. You've got to like doing that. I had the benefit of doing a magazine show called The Cricket Company, and you had to do links to camera. Hi, Danny Morrison here. Welcome to the National Bank Cricket Company. This week, I'm going to be talking to Martin Crowe. I'm going to catch up with Kenny Rutherford. I'm also going to speak to the current captain, Stephen Fleming. And then on top of that, we're going to go darting out and have a little bit of fun and do this. And so I learnt to do a lot more of that in front of camera by doing a magazine show once a week during the summer from 1999 to 2006. And then on top of that, doing some radio hosting. But again, I mean, it really comes back to the individual, how much they quite like doing it, or studio stuff in the studio, you know, perhaps talking to another host and delivering the expert comments about the game, love of the game. For me, the commentary is a lot of fun, and I think expressing my own style differently. Yes, I'm in demand because of 2020. I still love doing a bit of Test cricket, sure. 50 over all formats I love doing, but I tend to get more work through this T20, you know, franchise global cricket now, and that's just the nature of the beast. I tend to be quite animated in that style of mine for white ball cricket versus, you know, red ball Test cricket, pink ball Test cricket. But I do enjoy it, and I've been very grateful and very blessed to have gone to the UAE a lot, because that became Pakistan's home venue post 2009. And so I really have enjoyed and embraced Pakistan's cricket, and they always had great talent. So for me, commentating subcontinent players and working a lot in the subcontinent, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, I've been extremely grateful for that. And I think the energy of the crowds and the fans have helped me with my commentary to be up, because you have to be quite boisterous with a lot of energy and quite loud. Like, here we go again. This has disappeared for the maximum. You won't stop Babar Azam.
Yeah.
And I'm up like that because the crowd is so noisy. Yeah. And when I started, I'd be, oh, that's a great shot. Lovely. That's wonderful from Baba. But, you know, and you get drowned out. So you have to be up. You have to be animated at different levels, and there's different times to have that infliction, and it's we call it light and grey shades of being, hello and welcome everybody into the test match here, this second test match, a wonderful setting here in Abu Dhabi between Pakistan versus England, and then that's introducing it. So hello, and then alongside me I've got the great Waqar Yunus. Waqar, great to see you. And then he'll go, hi Danny, you know, and then the game starts. So then the first ball, and so then you've got to then lift when the situation demands, when there's excitement, or he's bowling, he's off stump here, it's gone cartwheeling, what a cracker. And then the other guy will come in, and if I haven't said that, I'll go, oh yes mate, what a great delivery. I mean, that is just beautiful. He set him up great, swung the ball late from outside, the wide on the crease and all that. So, you know, the guy calling it versus the expert doing the colour, as we call it, it can be quite different. I mean, you both can be quite up, because if it's a wicket falling or it's a big booming six, that's animated. And then, you know, if I'm not calling or I'm doing the expert comment and Ramesh Raj is on, he's going, oh, that's a big six, what a ripper, boom, boom, boom. And I'll go, oh, Ramesh, you've got to love Babar Azam. What a player, what a talent. So there's sometimes, you know, those different levels where you go. And that's important, and that's a learning thing too, and that's a more of a more confidence, more comfortable as you go.
Okay, Danny, you this year PCB hosted the entire PSL in Pakistan. Now, when they took this baby step in 2017, they had to face a lot of hurdles. Almost all the foreign players pulled out of the game, and all the overseas commentators, which included you also, you guys also had some reservations coming here. But now, from players to the commentators, all of them were present here. So how satisfied are you with TCB for hosting this entire PSL in Pakistan?
Well, most definitely happy. And I think it was always, like you said, you just mentioned, and spot on. Baby steps to get there from PSL. So we've had, 5 PSLs, Punch. Yeah. So when you're talking about those earlier ones, IPL, the second PSL, second PSL, third PSL, it just took time to get things embedded, have the playoffs in Pakistan, in the UAE, but then it was just a gradual development of doing it. I couldn't come in 2018 because my wife turned 50. So if I wanted to keep my ear and not cut it off, I had to go back to New Zealand for her 50th birthday celebrations, and that's when the 2018 finals were in late March. So but I was happy to come. I mean, I've come there with Fakhri Alam, who's done a show. We did a reality show in late 16 and came for 10 days to film something there with Damien Martin and Jonty Rhodes and the great Andy Roberts. So we came in late 16 to do that. Look, I was there when the bomb went off in 2002 outside the Sheraton, now the Movenpick in Karachi. Look, and I've been to Sri Lanka when the bombs have gone off there as well. I just think for us Westerners, we're very spoiled and tucked away down in New Zealand and Australia, where you don't get as much of that. I mean, we've just had the terror attacks last year, the mosque in Christchurch. I mean, that was just unheralded and freaky for little old New Zealand. And Sydney and Australia, remember that in 2014, they had that shutdown of the chocolate confectionery shop and a terrorist activity happened there. So, look, you could be anywhere, Zanny. You could be anywhere on the planet of Earth, and there could be issues. But, of course, I think in the subcontinent with more people, you're just going to have more heightened risk, aren't you? And I think the passion of cricket, it excites people, and then you can be used as a little bit of a target. But I think overall, the security's been superb for PSL this year in 2020. Such a shame that COVID-19's kicked in and they couldn't actually have the finals. But look, I think for a lot of us, love coming, love the cuisine, love the food. I love the way you do slow procured meat and the way you cook mutton. It's stunning. And whether it's like a biryani or just that lovely type of stewed meat that you do. I've always loved dosa, the rice flour dosa. I mean, easy on the old tummy. So I love the cuisine. And, I mean, we're spoiled when we come to your part of the world. Like the great Wasim Akram has a barbecue dinner at his place in Karachi. Other guys in Lahore have invited to their place, like Ramiz has done that. Amir Sahel pop round and have a dinner at his place. So really, I mean, it's very friendly in terms of that with ex-players, and we love that. It's just been such a shame of those terror attacks of 2009 at Gaddafi outside there, through it. But look, hey, what a great option. At least there was an option for Pakistan to view cricket out of the UAE. Not ideal, I get that. It's not Pakistan, of course. But at least that was happening. And then the PSL got to develop. But now, and Imran Khan, wow, Prime Minister of Pakistan. I mean, it's like a movie, isn't it? It's a scripted Hollywood movie. Crazy. So, I mean, you look at that, and I remember going to see Imran, went up to Imran to see him in Islamabad during that Bangladesh Test series, and we caught up with Imran. Hadn't seen Imran since the 1992 World Cup, when he was still playing. So all of that sort of stuff. Fascinating times. And really, I think you just say the passion for cricket in the subcontinent is just unheralded. Nowhere else really quite like it. It's unique.
Okay, Danny. Now, each and every fan of yours want you to answer this question. Now, since, like I mentioned before, you are the most entertaining and enjoyable commentators all over the world, and you commentate in almost all the T20 franchise league in the world. What's the reason that why Danny Morrison isn't invited in the ICC events like World Cup, World T20? Now, for me, it's a bit hard to digest it that that why isn't he invited in ICC events despite being demanded all over the world? So,
Zami, I mean, yeah, look, it's a choice thing, because I did do the first one in 2007, and I did the one in Bangladesh in 2014. But I also have like some studio-based relationships in India, and so for me, it's a nice variety. So I know some of the bosses there probably freak out that I get a little bit too energized and probably too over the top for some of them. But the World T20 was supposed to be on in Australia, and I probably would have done that. I've asked to do that. Sometimes it fits in, and sometimes the studio-based thing comes calling. So when I look at it, there's a nice balance of variety. I've done a lot of under-19s as well, because it was in New Zealand in 2018. They were just recently in South Africa, but I was in Pakistan doing the Bangladesh T20s and Test matches. So it's funny. There's so much cricket on now, Zami, that you've got to make choices. And so I think mine tends to be, my choice and relationships are with the franchise T20s, whether it's Pakistan Super League, IPL, some of the Bangladesh Premier League, here in the Caribbean Premier League doing bits of that, all of those sorts of things. I live in Australia. I don't live in New Zealand, so it's funny. I don't really work in Australia, but I spend so much time overseas. And the Big Bash, I used to do some radio or a bit, but it's tended gone to the other, the more recently retired guys, Mike Hussey, Shane Warne, Brennan Julian, all those different guys that have that and host them there. Ricky Ponting's doing a lot more commentary now. Those sort of guys that, played more recently, they do that in Australia. They want that, and that's fine because it's been Christmas time. So you guys clearly have Eid, and we have Christmas in the West. That's my downtime. It's been great with family. So often I will be in the UAE and I will have my wife and children there, whilst the Big Bash will be on back in Australia or whatever. It's just the way it works, really. It's a funny working landscape. And now with COVID-19 and doing these sort of interviews with the likes of yourself and podcasts, the world is sort of, again, so interconnected. And to be able to do this sort of stuff as well, it just proves that you don't always have to be on the road. You can do a lot more of this stuff at home. But as we know, Zami, live sport, you've got to have live sport. And it brings such joy to people and actually helps with mental health, makes people feel good about themselves or the day, and they've got fans, or Pakistan versus England in a test match going on, and then you've got some franchise cricket happening, and you've got all these different players from all over the world playing now with each other at a franchise, that whether it's, there in for Islamabad United versus the Karachi Kings, or now it's going to be here with the St. Lucia Zooks versus TKR in Trinidad and Tobago, and you've got all these different players now meshing and moulding, works well. So back to your question, ICC, look, I tend to, I don't mind, but at the same time, you can't do it all, I suppose. That's not saying greedy. I just don't, it just often overlaps, or I might be in a studio in India, Mumbai or Delhi, doing something with them around the tournament. Because as you know, fans that see the cricket on Sony 10 back in Pakistan, I'm often in the studio doing that. Those that have pay for TV like that channel, I'll often be doing that for Pakistan TV, and I'll be in the studio doing that. So I don't mind that. And to be fair, as I say, it gives you variety. It's a nice change to get away from travelling, all over the place, and be in one hotel and just do the studio. And it's actually a nice change, Amy.
Okay, Danny, you are a regular commentator now in PSL, IPL, and CPL, and also BPL. Now,
yes,
in terms of quality of cricket, the broadcast, and all the other things, where do you rank ESN?
Oh, very, very highly. I mean, when you look at the pitches, and in particularly when you get the surfaces right, I'd never been to Multan. I've been on a couple of tours of Pakistan, 1990 and 96. I got injured and had to go home. I did a hamstring or something in '96 and couldn't play. But the surface is Multan, very good pitch. Went through, and I think for anything you like a bit of pace in it. Sometimes you play on different surfaces where the spinners will dominate more. Sure, it's just the nature of the beast. But PSL, certainly, because you've got a lot of classy players, and some of the guys at the end of their careers, for sure, like a Shane Watson. But, Riley Rousseau, who's a regular on the circuit around the world, very good player. You've had Andre Russell and Darren Sammy's captain, all these sides and doing well. You've got to like that. These guys want to come, and they're totally.
Okay.
Well, Zami, that's right. I mean, when you think about the quality of the PSL and overseas players that want to come to the Pakistan Super League, magical. And I know they're probably at the end of their careers. Guys like Shane Watson, Riley Rousseau, who's on the circuit a lot, played a lot of T20 white ball cricket, and a lot of the great West Indians. You've had a lot of them here. Darren Sammy's, been a captain here of franchise. I mean, he's held in such high regard, really good motivator. Chris Lynn last year with Lahore, the latest one, PSL 5. Ben Dunk, is an underrated Aussie cricketer, very talented as well. So, you've got a lot of those guys that come here. You've had a lot of big names play in the PSL. Everyone goes on about the biggest one. We know that's the IPL, and it's been going the longest. They've got a huge amount of resources, money, and they can throw that at TV production, all that sort of thing. But it really does also come down to the pitch, Zami. If you've got good surfaces, Multan, good surface came on. Karachi can go through, and batters can hit through the line and entertain the crowd and love it. And sometimes you get a pitch that spins and grips a bit. Up north a bit was a bit colder, wasn't it, in PSL 5? And, you're there at Rawalpindi, and it was just gripping a bit. Just makes it different, interesting, and more challenging for the side batting with all the variety that the bowlers come up with. And so, PSL is a very good tournament, and a lot of good cricketers like coming to play in it.
Okay, Danny, now you like to enjoy with the fans and the crowd. I mean, he's seen you many times on TV that you are hanging out with the fans and the crowd, and the fans jump over you. Do you, I mean to say, do you enjoy it really? And aren't you scared that some incident might happen?
Yeah.
Because the thing is that the Asian fans, especially of India and Pakistan, they are like crazy. I mean, especially the Pathans.
Yes, they get excitable.
Yeah, so don't you get a little scared that some bad incident might happen? Just wanted.
Well, yeah, we couldn't do a lot, and I know we did it. I think during Pakistan versus Bangladesh, and sitting in the crowd doing a bit of a chant.
Yeah.
But in terms of the PSL and the fan base leaping out, I remember I did a couple of times in the crowd, but that was in Dubai and Sharjah. Excuse me, and you've probably got more control there. I just say not quite as wild as up north of the Pathans as they are in Dubai and Sharjah. It's a little bit more control. So I could do that. Remember, I went into the crowd and they put that big mascot's gladiators hat on me, and then I did a reveal. We took it off and then fell back into the crowd of those guys at Dubai. So you could have some fun like that because there wasn't big crowds, of course. They're not packed houses in the UAE, as we know, particularly Dubai. It's expensive to go to the cricket there, apparently, and it's not easy for those that live in Sharjah, the numbers, to come down. But, I mean, look, I enjoy it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. I've done it all around the globe, getting up stage there and dancing with the cheerleaders or whatever. Because as I've said in other podcasts, Zami, is that I did some pantomime when I was 11 and 12. My mother did my dear mother did a drama diploma at the Auckland University in 1978 when I was 12. And so around that time, when I was in between trying to start cricket, playing rugby and football, before cricket took off, there was a couple of years there when I was 11 and 12 when I did some pantomime. So you'd go to a bit like theatre sports and you'd be on a stage and they'd put chairs out, and then the teacher come director would give you a theme, like maybe Star Wars, and you were the captain, there was the first mate, and there was other people, and you basically had to think on your feet and then describe the narrative of what was going on within what you were doing on stage. And that, for 11 and 12-year-olds, not easy. So I think really from those early formative years gave me the confidence, and that cricket company show I was talking about earlier, to branch out and do that. And so I think also my personality is a bit like that, where I can be a little bit puggle, a little bit crazy and mad, and go off on that tangent to be comfortable doing that. So you probably couldn't imagine a Mike Atherton or a Nasser Hussain going into the crowd and doing that, could you? Or even, those big, like Wazim Awaka or Ramis. It's not really their thing to go and do that. So it allows me to go and have a bit of fun with it, clown around and be a bit outrageous, because, that's part of me too, Zami. That's part of my makeup, my personality, a bit more of an extrovert, a bit cheeky. So it works. And, of course, T20, they love that. So the bosses go, Morrison, can you dress up and go down there, or can you do an interview sideline and, different costumes on at times. David Lloyd, interesting, isn't it? Old David Lloyd, who's now about 72. You think about that for England. They got Lloydie, they got David Lloyd or Bumble to go and do stuff like that. So, again, it comes down to your personality and are you comfortable about hamming it up, having a bit of fun with the crowd interaction, going down there, doing an interview or something and just having a bit of a laugh. And clearly David Lloyd and I, we're comfortable with that.
Okay, yeah, you are absolutely right. Fans here in Pakistan love you a lot. I mean, they want you to seek an honorary citizenship of Pakistan. The love is
nice.
That it speak for you. Okay, Danny. Today, Pakistan versus England Test series has finally started.
Yes.
Now, you have covered Pakistan cricket a lot. We are an unpredictable team. Though we have got some good bunch of players in our team, like Babar Azam, Fawad Alam, Shadab Khan, Shaheen Afridi. But when it's not our day, none of the players performs. So how many chances do you see of Pakistan in this test series?
Well, of course, Test match cricket is different from white ball cricket, and we've been talking a lot about franchise T20 or 50-over cricket. Yeah, look, I do. I think, and you missed out there, Azhar Ali, who's been around for 10 years, been captain and stuff in recent times. So, and I've just been watching a bit on the telly, and Sham Masood, he's worked hard on his game. I was listening to Wazim Akram, who's over there doing the commentary with Sky in England. These guys have been around the scene a bit now, and Babar Azam is world class. He's got this incredible average. And everyone used to give Babar Azam a hard time about, you're good at white ball cricket, but you haven't been doing it in red ball test cricket. But now he's proved that in the last 2 years. He's been extraordinary. And so when I look at his development, he's still a young guy. And so you've got these talented guys, and you had Fakhar Zaman and white ball cricket there. I know he's not playing the test match, but when you look at these guys, they've got talent. It's always been there because it is such a passion, as you mentioned, Zami. Cricket is so number one. And you're right, there are times when, is it the good Pakistan side that's got out of bed this morning, or have they got out of the bad side of the bed this morning? And I just think because you can get caught up in the emotion, I think, as you said, as an excitement as a people, and there's so much demanded of you as cricketers, then you can be quite volatile and quite... I tell you what, I make the comparison with subcontinent cricket guys, and particularly Virat Kohli's like that, and he's from up in the north as well. So you look at, and you can't say it's all about the Patans. I think it's a bit like, South American soccer players, football players. You look at them, or the Italian football, they get very passionate, and they can explode and implode and then be awful and dreadful. But I think some of that passion and emotion gets in the way. And that, again, is understandable at times. And I think collectively, when it does, things fall apart badly and quickly. So, again, it depends. Again, like the great Imran Khan, if you've got a leader like that, different world, different setup, because he's so charismatic, so level-headed, and because he was an all-round and bowled and batted, different. He could see both sides of the camp, batters and bowlers. Different for other captains, and different personalities. And then, you've got guys that are just a bit more angry or a bit more aggressive, and that's a personality trait. So, Pakistan, the lineup you have at the moment is a very good all-round side, and even in the test matches, everyone goes on about white ball cricket, but in the test matches as well, some very, very exciting cricketers. Just need a bit more experience in some of it, but you're right, the batting department, very strong. And certainly in some of the bowlers, yes, young Shafi, the left armers are a bit young, but Wahab, how long does he keep going? Is he just white ball? Going to stick with white ball? Probably is. It's hard for all those guys that want to chop and change and do both. Whilst you're young, you can do that. So. Yeah, I think there's always an expectation, and I think fans will always have an expectation. Pakistan, India, those two nations, big, powerful cricket nations. There's always an expectation of doing well. The comparison I'll make is a bit like the rugby, going about the New Zealand All Blacks. The rugby team, all dressed in black gear, hence the name. There's a massive expectation that when they go out and play, they're expected to win every rugby test match. Well, that doesn't happen now in the modern game as much. Everyone's caught up and there's so much sport played. So, yeah, it's a bit like that for the Pakistan cricket team. They've got such good talent. And I want them to do well in England. Everyone wants to do well in England because England invented the game. So everyone wants to smash England when we go there and give the old English a hard time. So, yeah, fingers crossed, these Pakistanis can get up and do well.
Okay, Danny, here's my one last rapid fire questions session. You have to answer these questions.
How rapid are you going to be though?
I'll be fast. Okay. Now, my first rapid fire question from you: describe yourself in 3 words.
Fun, excitable, passionate.
Okay. What is your favorite summer activity?
My favourite summer activity?
Yeah.
Calling T20 cricket. Does that count? Or does it mean going for a walk with the wifey on the beach and through the parks and doing a little bit of a exercise walk through there and then going for a swim in the ocean?
Okay. What color is your toothbrush?
It's a white one. It's one of those electric ones. You plug in, zzz, bloody rip, and you change the heads on it. Yeah. I'm going to show you.
If you could buy any food right now, what could it be?
Food?
Yeah, food.
Any food I could have would be beautiful lamb shanks, slowly cooked over 10 hours. You get those big slow cooker pots. Oh, well, we're stuck in lockdown here, Zami, and the cuisine, it's struggling. The menu needs work because we're in lockdown. But, yeah, the lamb shanks.
Oh, okay. So guys, it was Danny Morrison. Danny. First of all, I would like to Thank you. Thanks you for giving your precious time and bearing me for this interview. So guys, that's all from here, and Danny, goodbye.
Well done, Zanny.